When someone disrespects you, they don't attack your words. They attack your worth. But here's the truth Machiavelli understood. Power is never lost through silence. It's lost through reaction. Every time you argue, explain, or defend yourself, you give them control. So today, I'll show you how to do what the powerful always do. Stay calm, stay unreadable, and leave the disrespectful speechless. Because true dominance doesn't speak, it observes. Never react, observe like a predator. This is the first law of psychological power that Machiavelli would whisper to anyone who desires control over disrespect. When someone disrespects you, their goal is not only to insult you, it is to provoke you. They want to see you lose your calm, to witness a crack in your composure, because that's where your power leaks out. The moment you react emotionally, you surrender the battlefield of perception. You hand them your dignity wrapped in anger. Machiavelli understood that power is not taken, it is given through reaction. And the one who remains unshaken owns the scene. Imagine a predator in the wild. It doesn't chase every noise or respond to every movement. It studies, calculates, and waits. Humans are no different in the game of respect. The person who observes instead of reacting creates fear, curiosity, and uncertainty in the mind of the other. When you stay calm, you make the disrespectful one reveal their weakness, because they expected to control your emotions, and when they fail, they begin to lose control of their own. Your silence becomes their mirror, showing them the chaos within themselves. Machiavelli believed that perception rules the world more than truth does. When you show anger, the world sees weakness. When you show composure, it sees power. A calm man in a storm commands more respect than the man shouting in the rain. So when disrespect comes your way, do not let your emotions become their entertainment. Breathe. Watch. Let your stillness become unsettling. People who thrive on disrespect crave reaction, because reaction feeds their ego. When they find none, they feel small, uncertain, and suddenly foolish. Observation gives you something that reaction never will: information. The observer learns the patterns, the insecurities, and the intentions of others. You start to see what triggers them, what they fear, and how they seek validation. This is how power is built in silence. You are not ignoring them. You are dissecting them. Every tone, every word, every smirk becomes a piece of data you can use later with precision. This is how the strategist wins, not by emotion, but by understanding. When you know your enemy better than they know themselves, you control the entire game without even moving a piece. To observe like a predator also means to detach your ego from the moment. Ego wants to fight back, to prove superiority, to respond immediately. But ego is easily manipulated. Machiavelli warned that those who cannot control their ego become slaves to it. The one who controls his ego becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability is the essence of psychological dominance. When you refuse to react, people cannot read your emotions. They cannot predict your next move. That mystery terrifies them. It forces them to question themselves, to doubt their own confidence. You no longer play their game. They start playing yours. Your eyes, your silence, your composure. These become your weapons. When you hold someone's gaze without a word, you make them feel the weight of your mind. You make them realize they are standing in front of someone who cannot be shaken by words. That is power. Quiet, invisible, and absolute. The disrespectful person will try to provoke you again, louder, harsher, more desperate, hoping to get even a flicker of emotion. But the predator doesn't bite until the right moment. And when you finally speak, your words cut deeper, because they come from calculation, not chaos. To observe is to own the moment. The one who reacts becomes part of the drama. The one who observes becomes the director. Every great strategist in history knew this. Control is never loud. Power is not in the shout, but in the pause. When you stop reacting and start observing, you shift the balance. You make the world wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you might do next. And in that silence, respect returns, not because you demanded it, but because you became untouchable. When someone disrespects you, their intention is not simply to offend, it is to dominate the moment. They want to drag you into their emotional chaos, to make you defend yourself, to force you to react. That is their victory. But Machiavelli would tell you that words, like swords, can be turned back on the attacker. The art is not in shouting louder, it's in turning their insult into a mirror. A mirror doesn't argue, it simply reflects. And when people are made to see their own ugliness, their arrogance collapses under the weight of their own reflection. When someone throws an insult, they expect resistance. They expect you to fight for your dignity, to prove your worth, to show anger. That's what gives them control. But when you respond by calmly repeating their words back to them, slowly, deliberately, with a faint smile that carries no emotion, you destroy their psychological rhythm. You make them confront the absurdity of their own behavior. In that moment, they realize their words have not cut you. They have exposed them. Machiavelli understood that the most dangerous form of retaliation is not fury, but poise. It is not about fighting the disrespectful person. It is about letting them fight themselves. Every insult carries a hidden weakness. It tells you what the other person fears, envies, or despises within themselves. When they call you arrogant, it's often because they feel small. When they label you selfish, it's because they crave attention. When they mock your calmness, it's because your peace reminds them of their chaos. If you can reflect their words back without emotion, you force them to confront that insecurity. It's no longer you under the spotlight. It's them. You've turned the blade in their hand without even lifting a finger. Machiavelli believed that true power is psychological. It doesn't exist in physical strength or loudness, but in the ability to manipulate perception. When you echo someone's disrespect in their own tone, you transform their attack into exposure. They start to feel uncomfortable, not because you insulted them, but because they suddenly hear themselves from the outside. You make them conscious of their foolishness, their immaturity, their loss of control. People rarely realize how ridiculous they sound until someone holds up the mirror. You don't need to shame them. Their own words do the job for you. This technique works because it shifts the dynamic from reaction to reflection. The disrespectful person expects a fight, an emotional exchange that feeds their ego. But when you deny them that, when you simply reflect, you remove their power source. They begin to stutter, to justify, to change the subject. Their confidence cracks because the game they tried to play no longer works. You've turned their weapon into confusion. The silence between your calm repetition and their rising frustration grows heavier. That silence becomes your control. To turn insults into mirrors also means mastering your internal state. It requires emotional discipline, the ability to hear words without letting them pierce your identity. Machiavelli taught that a ruler's mind must remain unmoved by offense. If you take everything personally, you are easy to control. But if you see every insult as information, you stay untouchable. The one who can stand still while others throw stones commands more power than the one who throws them back. Because people soon realize that you cannot be shaken, cannot be humiliated, and cannot be baited. Over time, this calm reflection builds a reputation. People begin to sense that offending you leads nowhere. They feel small, childish, and embarrassed in your presence. Your composure becomes a silent authority, the kind that makes others second-guess their behavior before speaking. This is how power is maintained without confrontation. The mirror becomes a weapon of elegance, not aggression. The most dangerous response to disrespect is not anger or revenge. It is reflection. Because when you make people see who they truly are, you don't need to destroy them. They destroy themselves. A fool expects reaction. The wise offer none. This is the silent weapon Machiavelli valued most, the power of strategic silence. When someone disrespects you, argues with you, or tries to provoke your emotions, they are not seeking truth. They are seeking control. They want to pull you into a storm they can command. But silence denies them that satisfaction. It is the refusal to play the game. And in that refusal lies power. Machiavelli understood that silence is not weakness, it is dominance disguised as restraint. The one who stays quiet appears mysterious, disciplined, and dangerous, because no one can read a man who doesn't reveal himself through words. When you meet disrespect with silence, you do something subtle but devastating. You shift the burden of interpretation onto the other person. They begin to wonder what you're thinking, how you feel, whether they've gone too far, or if you're planning something. Their imagination becomes your servant, and imagination is far more terrifying than reality. A calm silence forces them into self-reflection. It makes them question their own behavior, their own value, and their own control of the situation. You say nothing, yet you say everything. That you are not easily provoked, that you are beyond petty emotion, that you hold yourself with authority. People who use disrespect as a weapon crave instant validation. They want to see the effect of their words, to confirm that they matter. Silence takes that away. It starves them of the attention they need to feel powerful. The more they try to provoke, the weaker they appear. Because their energy meets an immovable wall, they begin to look foolish, talking, shouting, explaining, while you remain calm, unbothered, and detached. In their eyes, your silence becomes superiority. You flip the balance of power without saying a word. Machiavelli believed that words are dangerous tools. Once spoken, they can be used against you, misinterpreted, or twisted. But silence leaves no evidence. It gives nothing away. It allows you to observe, to listen, and to plan. Every moment you remain silent, you collect information. How they speak, what they reveal, where their insecurities lie. In the art of manipulation and control, information is the ultimate currency. The one who listens more always wins. The one who speaks too much loses power through exposure. Silence is therefore not just restraint, it is strategy. It allows you to act with precision instead of impulse. There is also psychological mastery in silence. When you control your tongue, you control your emotions. And when you control your emotions, you control your fate. The world belongs to those who can remain calm while others lose themselves to anger and noise. When you are silent, you force others to reveal their true nature. They will speak more, justify more, and show you the depths of their weakness. You, on the other hand, remain unreadable, a closed book that no one dares to judge. People respect what they cannot easily understand. Your silence becomes mystique, and mystique becomes authority. In conflict, silence is not about walking away. It is about holding the throne while the other person begs for a reaction. You are not retreating. You are observing from above. And when the moment finally comes to speak, your words will carry more weight than 1,000 shouts. Because people remember what breaks the silence, not what fills it. Machiavelli knew that a single calculated sentence delivered after long restraint can destroy an opponent more effectively than endless argument. The quiet man who speaks once will always be feared more than the loud man who speaks constantly. To master strategic silence is to master yourself. It is to understand that power is not in expression, but in control. Let fools waste their strength in noise. Let them reveal their intentions through anger and pride. You remain still, untouchable, composed, and watchful. Eventually the world will see the difference. They shouted to prove their strength. You stayed silent because you didn't need to. In that moment, silence becomes not the absence of power, but its purest form. Disrespect is never about truth, it is about power. When someone disrespects you, what they truly seek is your attention. They want a reaction, a glance, a word, anything that confirms you have noticed them. Machiavelli understood that attention is the most valuable currency in human interaction. To give it freely is to hand over control. To deny it is to become powerful. When you stop giving your attention to those who try to provoke you, you starve them of significance. They begin to fade into the background while your silence grows louder than their words. Indifference becomes your weapon, and it cuts deeper than anger ever could. People who insult or challenge you want to pull you into their emotional orbit. They live off validation, whether it comes through admiration or conflict. To them, your response is proof that they matter. This is why ignoring them hurts more than any retaliation. When you don't react, they feel invisible, powerless, irrelevant. Machiavelli would say that humans fear nothing more than being forgotten. The greatest punishment you can give to a disrespectful person is to show them that their existence has no impact on your state of mind. You become a wall, cold, calm, and unmoved, and they become a noise fading into silence. Indifference is not weakness, it is control. It means you have trained your emotions to obey you, not others. When you stop giving attention to someone who disrespects you, You create psychological distance, a space where they can no longer influence your peace. They might try harder to provoke you, saying crueler things, raising their voice, inventing stories. But every attempt will expose their desperation. The more they try, the more they show how much they need your reaction. You, on the other hand, remain detached, as if their existence no longer concerns you. That calmness terrifies people. It shows them you are not a participant in their chaos. You are the observer of it. Machiavelli believed that people crave recognition more than they crave justice. They want to feel seen, heard, and acknowledged, even in conflict. The master strategist denies them that. He remains composed and chooses when, where, and with whom to engage. He never wastes energy proving himself to those beneath his level. By withholding attention, you elevate your value. You show that your focus is scarce and only given to things worthy of it. Over time, people begin to sense this. They realize that your silence is not ignorance but judgment, a quiet declaration that their behavior is beneath your dignity, and that realization crushes them more than any verbal counterattack. To make others crave your validation, you must first stop seeking theirs. Confidence is the foundation of indifference. When you truly understand your worth, the opinions of others lose their grip on you. You no longer chase approval or fear criticism. You move as though no one's opinion can shape your destiny. This aura is magnetic. Even those who once disrespected you will begin to study you, speak of you, and seek your reaction. Because mystery attracts more than explanation. The less you reveal, the more they wonder. The less you give, the more they chase. Machiavelli's wisdom reminds us that attention is energy, and energy is influence. Every time you respond to disrespect, you invest energy into someone unworthy. But when you withdraw it, that energy multiplies within you. It strengthens your composure, your focus, and your self-control. The most dangerous man is not the loudest. He is the one who no longer reacts, the one who lets others speak while he observes and decides in silence. When you give no attention, they lose all control, and soon they start seeking the very thing you've taken away. Your presence, your reaction, your acknowledgement. That's when the balance of power shifts. You no longer chase respect. They begin to crave yours. Power is not measured by how loud you speak or how strongly you argue, but by how calm you remain when others try to provoke you. Machiavelli understood that composure is the ultimate form of control. The one who keeps his emotions still while others burn in rage possesses invisible dominance. When people disrespect you, they expect you to fight back, to defend yourself, to lose balance. But when you stay calm, you flip the dynamic entirely. Your calmness becomes a weapon, one that exposes the emotional instability of the other person while reinforcing your own authority. In every confrontation, the one who stays composed is the one who secretly governs the outcome. When someone disrespects you, they are testing your emotional limits. They want to see where you lose control, what makes you react, how far they can push you. If you show them that you can be provoked, they'll learn how to control you in the future. But if you remain unshaken, you send a clear message. Nothing you do can reach me. That message pierces deeper than anger ever could. A calm man surrounded by chaos is not seen as weak. He is seen as powerful, even dangerous. People instinctively respect those who appear untouchable because calmness signals mastery. It tells the world that you are not ruled by others. You rule yourself. Composure also has a psychological effect that few understand. When you stay calm during conflict, the other person starts to feel their own instability. Your silence, your stillness, your steady tone, they all act like mirrors reflecting their loss of control. They become louder, more emotional, more erratic, trying to break your calm, but the more they fail, the weaker they look. You don't need to win the argument. You let them destroy their own credibility. They end up appearing irrational while you appear measured and wise. That's how calmness wins battles without fighting. Machiavelli would say that the greatest victories are achieved not through attack, but through patience. Remaining calm doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means mastering them. It is a deliberate decision to respond strategically rather than emotionally. When you can pause before speaking, breathe before reacting, and think before replying, you control the entire pace of the situation. You decide when the conversation moves, when it ends, and what energy it carries. The person who loses their temper loses that control. Their words become reckless, their logic collapses, and their credibility vanishes. You, by contrast, conserve your energy and maintain your dignity. Every word you choose afterward carries more weight because it is delivered from strength, not insecurity. Machiavelli often wrote that perception is as powerful as reality. When people see you calm under pressure, they begin to imagine strength far greater than what you actually display. They start to believe you know something they don't, that you have more control, more wisdom, or more power. This perception alone makes them cautious around you. They begin to measure their words, adjust their tone, and treat you with an underlying respect born out of uncertainty. They cannot read you, and that mystery makes you untouchable. Your calmness becomes a silent armor that protects you from emotional manipulation. To win with composure is to operate on a higher plane. While others argue, you analyze. While they waste energy proving themselves, you conserve energy to plan your next move. You stop being part of their drama and become the one observing it from above. People are drawn to that kind of presence. It feels royal, measured, and rare. And even your enemies begin to acknowledge your strength because they can sense it in your restraint. The world is full of those who speak before thinking, but the few who remain composed are the ones who influence everything. Machiavelli's wisdom lies in this truth. The calm man always wins, not because he is the loudest, but because he is the last one still in control when everyone else has lost theirs. Power is not proven through noise or confrontation. It is revealed through restraint. Machiavelli believed that the most powerful man is the one who does not need to prove his power at all. When you control yourself, you control every situation around you. Those who act impulsively are like slaves to their emotions, constantly reacting, constantly trying to show strength. But those who move with discipline, who can stay composed even when insulted or challenged, possess a quiet authority that cannot be faked. Restraint is not the absence of power, it is its highest expression. Because anyone can act out of anger, but only the powerful can choose not to. In moments of disrespect or conflict, the average person's instinct is to fight back, to defend their pride. But that need to react exposes something deeper: insecurity. It reveals that you care too much about how others perceive you, that you're willing to lose control just to prove a point. Machiavelli understood that true rulers never fight battles they don't need to. Every reaction costs energy, reputation, and control. Restraint, on the other hand, costs nothing but earns everything. When you can look at someone who tries to provoke you and simply choose not to engage, you demonstrate superiority without a single word. You show them that their actions are too small to deserve your attention. Restraint is rooted in emotional mastery. It's the discipline to let your mind command your emotions instead of the other way around. When you pause before responding, when you breathe instead of bursting, you shift from instinct to strategy. You see the situation for what it truly is, a test. Every person who disrespects you is testing the strength of your self-control. They want to know if they can pull you into their chaos. When you refuse, you win without confrontation. Your restraint makes them question their own behavior, their own motives, and their own worth. You strip them of their victory by denying them your reaction. People mistake restraint for weakness, but the opposite is true. It takes far more strength to stay calm than to explode. Anger is easy. Composure is earned. Machiavelli knew that the most dangerous person in the room is the one who appears calm, because you never know what they're thinking or planning. Their silence is not submission, it's preparation. When you practice restraint, you create psychological distance. You observe rather than participate. You begin to see patterns in people, their fears, their manipulation, their intentions. That awareness gives you leverage. You stop being a piece on the board and become the one moving the pieces. Restraint also builds reputation. When people realize that nothing can easily provoke you, they start to respect you differently. They speak more carefully around you. They hesitate before crossing lines, and they subconsciously place you above them. Your discipline becomes your authority. The man who reacts to every insult is ordinary. The man who remains calm becomes mysterious. People wonder what you're capable of, what you're thinking, and where your limits are. That uncertainty makes them cautious. They don't fear your anger, they fear your silence. Machiavelli often wrote that a ruler must know when to act and when to remain still. Restraint doesn't mean inaction, it means timing. You hold back not because you can't respond, but because you're waiting for the right moment, the one that benefits you most. It's about controlling the tempo of every interaction. You decide when to engage, when to withdraw, and when to strike. This control over timing separates the impulsive from the powerful. In a world that glorifies reaction, restraint is rebellion. It is the mark of someone who has mastered not just others, but himself. Because in the end, the strongest man is not the one who dominates others through aggression, but the one who has complete command over his own nature. Power is not about speaking louder, winning arguments, or forcing others to respect you. It's about mastering yourself so completely that no one can pull you out of character. Machiavelli taught that true dominance comes from control over emotion, reaction, and attention. When you refuse to react, when you observe, when you stay calm and let silence work for you, you make others reveal their weakness while you keep yours hidden. The world bows not to those who shout, but to those who cannot be shaken. So when disrespect comes, remember this: you don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Let your composure be your revenge, your silence be your answer, and your restraint be the mark of your power. Because in the end, the one who stays calm rules.